Grant, I'm not sure whose agenda it is on, but I see we have representatives today from the court, I think concerning the professional services contract for a consultant for the e-filing project. Why don't we jump to that on our agenda?
Yes, the board last fall approved the publishing of a request for proposal for an e-filing system to be integrated into the Common Pleas court system in the clerk of court's office, and quite a complex system. And they have now reached the point where a contract needs to be negotiated with one of the vendors who responded, and also then the system needs to be implemented in an ongoing process. As part of that, since this is a new complex system both to the county and to us, the National Center for State Courts has submitted a proposal to serve as a consultant, both in the negotiating of the contract with the vendor and also in the implementation of the system across all systems and offices. This is the proposal that they've submitted. The contract would be coming back with all these terms in the proposal, and this resolution basically adopts and approves the terms of this proposal and authorizes the president of the board to sign all necessary contract documents to implement for a price not to exceed, with the National Center for State Courts, a cost not to exceed $31,394.
I would move to adopt the resolution as presented by the administrator.
Second. We have a motion and second. We have representatives from the court, from the clerk of courts. Again, just I guess for the edification of the media and others who are here today, why don't you briefly explain for us, an e-filing system and the stages in the implementation of the system and how we got to this point with your RFP and so forth.
If you don't mind, I'll defer to you and Nancy. There's some different information we can share with you, including the proposal that's been submitted by the National Center, the source of funds to pay for that. But as it relates to the description of the e-filing system, I would defer to Jody or Nancy.
The e-filing
You
system.
could have told us this under public speaks too.
Welcome to the board meeting.
I am Jody German from Nancy Reingold, the Clerk of Court's office. In a nutshell, what e-filing is that a filer would go to the internet, set up an account one time, and then they would basically create documents that typically now are walked into our office and filed. They would create them on their computer sitting in their office, would forward a PDF to us. They can pay their filing fee. They can do everything that they would do at our counter, they'll be doing in their office. The documents then would come to the clerk's office for approval to make sure if they intended to file a complaint, they did file a complaint. If they intended to file any motions or proposed orders for the judges, that's what they created. Once the clerk approves it, it can go to a queue for, if it's a case that's assigned to a certain judge, a copy would go electronically to them. If it's an order that needs to be filed and or signed and then filed, it would go to the judge. All that step would take care of filing, scanning, attaching, docketing, and then filing in a file. All of that would be done in one step. When the clerk approves the document, what now is done as a manual process will be done electronically.
And currently, the state courts, as well as the federal court, they all have electronic filing. There are various counties throughout the state that have also implemented it. It is the up-and-coming thing, and it's something that saves the attorney's time. They can file up to midnight. If they have a filing deadline, they can file up to midnight. It saves them from having to go to the courthouse all the time to file and to pick up copies of documents and so forth. They'll all be online. They will have their own case management, I think, to a degree where they can go into their own cases. They don't have to create a file either. They will have their own file. And it's going to obviously save filing space. We won't have to buy file folders. We won't have the shelving, the lack of space that we're currently enduring right now as well. So it's a benefit to the court. The court will get the documents immediately. It will save the attorneys, and it saves the clerk's office a lot of work.
What about filers, for example, who aren't represented by attorneys? How do they file under A&E filing system?
We will have a kiosk set up in the lobby of the clerk's office, and we will assist those people to electronically file.
Yeah, there's a process built in for pro se litigants, for example, that wouldn't normally know how to file something electronically to do exactly what Nancy said.
What about old lawyers who wouldn't know how to file electronically? If there are any such people.
We'll show them one time.
Once more.
Take good notes.
Well, it depends on who it is.
That's true.
The cost of, who's underwriting this, is the criminal justice fund, or is it a special projects fund?
Special
or is
projects.
it- Okay.
Set up by the courts.
I believe in 2011, when Judge Heath started the planning for this system, we established through your office a separate e-filing fund. I think it's Fund 811. And the cost for this entire system will be underwritten by filing fees. So while it's public money, it's not actually taxpayer money in the sense that it is being paid for by users of the system. So when someone files a case, there is a filing fee specifically established for electronic filing, and that will be the source of the funds. The family court will contribute to the cost of this, since they will benefit from this as well. The idea is to include the common pleas court, including civil, criminal, the family court, and probate will be probably the last stage for the county courts to be implemented. And then over time, there is the potential for doing the same thing with the municipal courts.
Is this an outcome of the Citizens Review Board presentation, or was that ever mentioned when the citizens, I don't remember if they did. But how did you ever get onto this?
Well, the federal bench has had electronic filing for a number of years. Judge Heath really has been the driving force behind this locally. Nancy, I don't know if there's...
Through the Ohio Clerks Association, we're aware of some of the other counties that have implemented the e-filing. So it's been an ongoing conversation, and of course, I'm so looking forward to it, because if it benefits anyone, it benefits myself, the clerk's office. But we had to get a judge on board, and Judge Heath had been to either an electronic conference or a judge's conference, found out about it, was very excited when she came back and approached me, and I said, if I've got you on board, we're ready to go. So
Good.
that's when she took the reins and went with it.
So it kind of came out of a woman's initiative then?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I believe that's
That's
true.
what I heard you say.
And you have already conducted an RFP,
Yes.
and how many responses did you receive to that?
3.
3? You've essentially discussed or selected for purpose of negotiation a final vendor to negotiate a final contract with. And I believe under the statute, and under that particular statute, that name of that vendor remains not a matter of public record
Correct.
until such time as the contract is actually negotiated with them.
Correct.
That's
Which
correct.
is the reason why we're not disclosing the name of the vendor today.
And after this contract with the National Center for State Courts is put in place, I think the next step is, and I wanted to mention that we'd like to get Dave Bridenstine involved and set up a committee for contract negotiations with the vendor. The vendor has not yet been notified. That's all part of the process that needs to take place. But those would be the next immediate steps, I think, to take. We'll get this contract in place and then contact the vendor and begin negotiations.
So the approximate cost of this contract is what?
For the National Center,
No, for the actual acquisition of the software and hardware system, whatever's involved.
1,110,000 and change, with some options that amount to about $25,000, including $18,000 for ongoing maintenance and a couple of other minor costs for options.
And due to the complexity of the process and the level of detail going forward in implementation, it's good to have the heft and gravitas of National Center, who has a lot of experience in implementations of these systems, helping us.
The heft and gravitas.
There you go. Bituminous.
Mr. Luther, aren't you something today? Please spell gravitas, please.
G-R-A-V-I-T-S.
And I think part of our experience that we're still working our way through also, but on the acquisition of the computer-aided dispatch, again, was the complexity of that and the tremendous benefits that, we've, obtained to date, with a well-qualified consultant. So we thought that the same course in this, I think, will serve us very, very well.
That's what the National Center for State Courts does, and I think this would be money well spent. Again, the cost of this will be paid for out of the e-filing fund. If the PO for this hasn't already been opened, it's in the process of being opened.
We have a motion second. Any other discussion? Would you like to add? Jody, what would you like to add? Your final word.
Well, I think it's a great improvement for Stark County.
Thank you.
Well said.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.